What is going on YouTube? Heading back making another brand new Crypto TV episode. In today's video, I do believe we have a ton of important cryptocurrency stuff to discuss with you guys. As you guys know, in the past couple of days, we actually did perform a short on the market, which indeed did actually make quite a bit of profit. And then we saw some very interesting movement within the market. We actually saw an immediate reversal, which I think was very interesting, unexpected, unpredicted. And I do believe we are still looking good to continue to head lower. And I'd like to explain and talk about that major move that we're starting to see right now and last night in today's episode. We also have an article posted by Cointelegraph in regards to Bitcoin back above 7K as a higher low can spark an explosive move, something we also need to consider because that is still a possibility. And there is on Bitcoin's chart higher lows in the formation right now, which is huge, and it's something to consider. We have to weigh out both options, but in regards to seeing a correction lower, that is still up for debate, and that is still a possibility. My short on DueDEX is still in, and just because we are down a little bit, there still is room to head up higher. Otherwise, guys, if you are new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a giant thumbs up, and let's jump into today's episode. So guys, the past couple of videos we were discussing the fact that we were hitting a resistance level and we are starting to correct lower. Yesterday we made a video right here where you can see in the thumbnail what I was referring to, where each of these white points does reference a correction lower. Every time we hit the resistance, we fall lower, we fall lower, we fall lower. It's happened over and over again, and you can see this would be the fourth, if not the fifth point where we start to head lower once again. Now what's interesting is when we focus on the technical analysis and on these cryptocurrencies, you'll notice we're actually starting to move up, which is huge, and it's something to consider. Notice out of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, volume is starting to come back. Out of the top 10, everything is in green. Everything's up. You can see Bitcoin is 5%, Ethereum 4.6, XRP 2.7. XRP seems to be acting very different compared to the other cryptocurrencies. It's doing its own thing in total. Litecoin is up 5%, and for the most part, we're up about 5 to 6%. Markets are all looking good. And that's where it leads me into discussing the major moves that are happening within Bitcoin, within Ethereum, within Litecoin, and so on and so forth. I do just want to discuss with you guys this article posted by Cointelegraph in regards to that Bitcoin back above 7K could spark a bigger movement. I still think we're kind of back where we started from, but I do think we should discuss this article as well. Basically, they're talking about the fact that we are setting these higher lows. They're also talking about the fact that there is this inverse head and shoulders setting up, which you can see kind of right here a little bit, but more specifically, the fact that we are seeing the higher low right here. You see this previous one, we were setting lower lows, and now we ultimately set a higher low. You guys can see that this could ultimately start an uptrend, which would set us up higher. Still a possibility, still something to consider, but there is risk of obviously corrections lower. You can see right here that price action on the weekly candle clearly shows price action squeezing up against resistance. The bearish argument is that this is a retest of previous support, which is once again being rejected. This combined with the overall downtrend heeds a warning of overzealous bulls. If demand dries up in the 6,000s, the next level of support is obviously going to shoot us down to 5,000s, which is kind of where my head's at and kind of where I'm shooting for. Now, yes, the past couple of times that I did short, I actually, it reversed right back up after, which is something to consider, but this wasn't a very quick short that I put in. This is something that I want to have in the market for quite some time now. I want to have this in for a couple of days, if not a week or two. So it's not something that I want to get in and get out. That's not really the type of trading that I enjoy doing. I've done this in the past, and I kind of get very anxious, and I put a lot of emotions in the market when I buy in and I'm selling and I'm watching the technical analysis every single day in regards to having money in it. I feel much more comfortable and relaxed if I can just put my money in and I expect to pull it out in like a week or two over checking it out hour after hour. It's something that I've learned to cope with. In the beginning, I used to be very, very, very anxious. I would watch the market like a hawk, but now that I've kind of learned to short and buy and sell cryptocurrency, I've learned that if you just put it in for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, you can tend to take your focus off of that, understanding that in the long term we should expect to see corrections higher. So let's just dive into the technical analysis, because I know that's what you guys want to discuss. Now, obviously with the short that we have with DueDEX, which is the first link in the description, I've also seen we've had over 100 now, over 200 people sign up to DueDEX. So huge shout out to all you guys for helping support the channel, as well as the fact that it is a great way to actually make money and profit off of here. They do offer sign-up bonuses and things like that. As you guys can see, you do notice that my position is lower. This is a different position than the one that I had yesterday for a couple of reasons. So I wanted to test out something. I actually sold my profit yesterday. I made about $45 off of yesterday's position. I'm currently down around 55, so I'm really only down about 10 bucks, which is nothing that I need to be too worried about. But what I really wanted to try out was in regards to the leverage trade that I had opened, merely just a test. I actually learned that even though I had $500 in my DueDEX account, with the fact that I leveraged it by 10 times, I could actually enter $1,000 in quantity here, as you guys have told me, and that's the position I have. So I actually have $1,000 shorted right now in the market, and with a 10 times leverage. So even though I have $500 available, I was able to short this with $1,000, which is something that I didn't realize, and I could probably short it up to $5,000 if I wanted to. But yes, we did have this immediate correction and immediate pullback up to the upside. But just take a look at what exactly is going on right now. This is the daily. You can see on the daily we did have a big fall. We were expecting to see that correction lower. But notice we are still setting a lower low. Even though we do have a higher low right here, we had our previous retest at 64. We then had one now at 68. We're still heading lower. The previous high was at $700. Then we had it at 75, and now we're currently at 73. And you'll notice we're still heading lower, even though we're still hanging out around here. It seems like there is some sort of very strong support at $6,800. It's hit it in the past, and it seems to have been hitting it again. You can see where that overlies right here. We extend this farther, you can see that also has a bit of resistance and support right here. But ultimately, you can see that we've hit it back in November, end of November, and we're hitting it once again just yesterday. And you can see that's why we bounced off of here. Now notice, just because we are correcting up doesn't mean I'm really down money. I'm only down money until I sell out. If I close my position on DueDEX, then yes, I will have, entered a loss and I would have lost money. But by the looks of the Bitcoin chart, the fact that we're just teeter-tottering on the resistance here, I ultimately do believe we are going to correct even lower. You can see it's happened in the past. You can see right here where we've had the same exact thing happen, and look what happened right after. So you can see we actually were starting to trend downwards, and then we immediately corrected back up, hit the same resistance, and then, just catapulted down in volume as well as in price. We shot down with extreme volume. So if you were to sell out here, being too FOMO and being too quick to jump the gun, you would actually lose out on just a couple of days later the massive correction to the downside. So it's the same thing that applies here. Just because we saw the dip yesterday, I was anticipating a lower one that didn't happen. We're still hitting a resistance that is ultimately going to push us back down to support right here. So just because it didn't happen this immediate day doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the next day or two. So that's why I'm still in it. I don't consider this to be a loss just yet. If we do manage to start breaking up to the upside, then yeah, it is a pretty big loss and I will ultimately sell off. But this is a long-term position that I'm entering right now. I want to hold this for the next couple of days and see where the market honestly trends to, because we're still hitting a resistance that's huge. We're still hitting that resistance. We teeter-tottered on crossing over the MACD right here, entering a bearish market. But ultimately, even with this correction to the upside, I still believe there's room to head lower. Now, we are now back above support right here, which is interesting, but we're also at a very strong resistance. And due to the fact that we just shot up, which probably put us into overbought on the 4-hour, or very close there's ultimately a good chance we're going to reject this again and head lower. If we do break through this at a bullish volume, I'd be very shocked, but I ultimately do believe we're going to be correcting even lower with the prices that we're at right now. You can see on Litecoin the exact same reference. You can see that on the daily, we're clearly hitting that same resistance. You can see it's happened in the past, and it's probably going to happen once again. You can see what I'm referring to. You can see we had the small dip right now, and then we corrected back up. We can easily consolidate back down and then drop. Same thing happened here. We had the dip downwards. We corrected back up. We consolidated out, and then we dropped. So the same thing that is happening right now could very easily happen again, just like we've seen in the past, where we have that consolidation, that rejection. We consolidate down because this is an extremely strong resistance, and then we could ultimately just correct lower. So that's kind of where my head's out. I do believe we are in a bear market right now for the next couple of weeks, if in the short term, and I do believe we will be falling lower. So just because we had this scare and this shock doesn't mean this is going to be a long-term thing. Doesn't mean we saw a massive breakout to the upside, we're still being suppressed by this massive resistance, and there is still potential for us to head lower. So just keep this in mind. Keep considering that we're really not down. You know, even if you had your short positions in, there's still a very high chance we're going to see even more correction lower. So if you haven't already entered the short market, there's still room to do so. Obviously, I'm no financial advisor, but just because I didn't sell off right now doesn't mean we're going to head lower. But I do believe we are still expecting to see a 36% drop. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe the next day we will start to see that correction and that retracement similar to this that we're all really looking for. Otherwise, that wraps up the video. I mean, you can see the same thing is happening on Ethereum. Ethereum is still capped off. Every single time we hit this resistance here, we break bearish. We hit here, we break bearish. Now, this took a little bit longer, but inevitably we did come back down to this bottom support. Same thing happens over and over. The fact that we've now got a little bit of volume, retesting some very crucial zones right here, ultimately I do believe we're going to correct lower. Now, it could be totally wrong. There's still that possibility that we could be breaking out, and which is ultimately awesome. We'll cut our losses, buy in, and leverage up, but I do believe that we are still going to need to short. As for XRP, the coin that's been practically doing nothing and has been dormant right now, does need to have its consolidation. That's why we're really not seeing any sort of movement within the price. It is in a descending triangle, different than the other cryptocurrencies. So I do believe consolidation is needed, and then ultimately we're going to correct down to 16 cents, and then we should anticipate a breakout. But otherwise, Bitcoin doesn't look bad. I don't think I made a bad play. You let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you're in the short, I really don't recommend selling off. Now, again, do what you want. I'm not selling off my position. I'm not closing. I'm not taking that loss, because I do believe in the next couple of days we will still correct lower, even lower than where we saw yesterday and the day before. Otherwise, guys, that will wrap up today's video. If you're new to the channel, definitely make sure to subscribe, turn on post notifications, leave a giant thumbs up. Check out my Patreon. It's a great way to get updated videos, as well as make sure to check out DueDEX, a great way to short the market. Otherwise, I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace.